Okay, and welcome to the third video on Hume's positive account of the origin of our idea of cause and effect. So in order to understand the nature of the inference, the inference from the present impression of the flame to the lively idea of heat, let's turn for a moment to Hume's account of the properties of the idea of this lively idea of heat that we form. So this isn't just any old idea, this idea here. Rather, when I form this idea, I expect there to actually be heat in the world, right? I expect there to be heat. It's not just any old faint imagination. It's a belief that there really is heat there, that if I hold out my hand, I'll have an impression of it. And so if we're having a conversation, so what distinguishes beliefs from ideas that we don't believe in? Well, it's going to be their force and vivacity, remember? So suppose we're having a conversation, and you're claiming that Trump won the election, and I don't believe you. Well, I understand what you're claiming. And so the difference between our ideas, I mean, obviously there is a difference, right? I believe that Trump did not win the election. You believe that Trump did the election. I did win the election. I understand what you're saying, but we believe different things. And so how do we explain this difference in our ideas? That you believe it and I don't. Well, since we both understand the ideas, it can't be a difference in the content of what we're representing, right? We understand the same thing. We're representing the same thing. So it's not a difference in their content. Rather, it has to be a difference in the way or manner in which we have the ideas. You are having the ideas. You have your idea about Trump's winning the election in a different way than I do. And so the way Hume is going to draw that distinction, remember, is we've got beliefs, and those are going to be impressions or ideas. And then we've got mere conceptions or imaginings. And those are also going to be ideas. And there's going to be a line that divides these, right? And the scale on which we're going to divide them is going to have to do with their force or vivacity, their intensity, their liveliness. And the things that are above this line, the perceptions that are above this line, those are going to be ones that we take to be real. They're realities. Whereas these are going to be mere fictions. Right? And so the idea is these have more force and vivacity, and these have less force and vivacity. The real ones have more force and vivacity, and the fictions have less force and vivacity. And now with this, with our present impression of the flame and the lively idea that we form on the basis of it, we're going to find that the impression transfers some of its liveliness, some of its force, some of its vivacity to the idea of heat. And I mean, so if you remember back to section 3, in the principles of association of cause and effect, we saw that the principle of cause and effect was the only principle of association that was strong enough to yield belief, right? It was the only one where our mind could be passively carried along from one perception to the next, and the perception that we're carried to is one that we believe in, that we take to be real. And that's because this connection between cause and effect is strong enough to transfer some of the liveliness or vivacity to the idea of the effect. So if I have a present impression of a flame, well, that together with the habit of thinking of heat when I think of flames, is enough to bring about the lively idea, the belief that there's heat there. But notice, if I just have a random idea of a flame, if I'm just, thinking about what a flame would be like, if I just imagine a flame on TV, say, well, the habit might get me to form the idea of heat, right? I might move quickly to form the idea of heat, but I don't believe that there is heat in the world, right? It's a mere conceiving, right? It's down here, and that's because the original random idea of flame, well, that doesn't have very much force and vivacity to it. And so although the habit can transfer force and vivacity from the starting idea, from the starting perception to the later perception, in this case, the force of the starting idea isn't strong enough to get me to a belief. It's only enough to get me to a weak mere conception. Whereas if the starting perception is an impression, and so it's very forceful and vivacious, well, then the habit will transfer that force and vivacity to the idea that's formed on the base of it, and that idea will be a belief. Okay, and so that's a bit about the idea that we form on the basis of the inference, and we've seen that inference is formed on the basis of a habit. And so in the next video, we're gonna return to the inference and the habit which underlies it, and examine how it could be that that we form such a habit. I mean, what is it that explains the habit? How is the habit being brought about? That's what we'll turn to in the next video.